philosophy is that
It's not really.
political philosophy is grounded on certain beliefs that direct a research from the idea stage up to the results. Uh, there are five major research philosophies in political science: positivism, rationalism, empiricism, and interpretivism. The major similarity and the major importance of these research methodologies is that they provide the philosophical grounds upon which research is directed. An overview of the research methods. There are three broad methods in political science: the quantitative method, the mixed method, as well as the qualitative method. The quantitative method basically is that method that launched the behavioral revolution in political science. Uh, it deals with statistical values that help a researcher to establish sequence of variations in particular problems that researcher is trying to investigate and solve. And the qualitative method usually deals in in-depth sources to generate data in order to make inferences and insights in to solve particular political problem. And the mixed method preys on both methods. It uses both the techniques and methods of the qualitative and the quantitative method in order to uh, produce solutions to problems. What Now choosing a design. Uh, the design is the compass that helps a researcher to navigate towards to navigate the contours of his research. Uh, there are For this research, we are going to deploy the qualitative design, and the qualitative design, as we've said, is basically going in depth on experiences and knowledge of the subjects of interest of a particular research. There are about five major types of qualitative designs. There is the historical, the phenomenological, the case study, the action research, ethnography, and the grounded research, grounded theory. It is instructive to note that the qualitative research designs or approaches share similarities in either their methods of data collection or methods of analysis. Uh, we'll go to the, sorry, please go to the slide number 22. Okay. For this research, we're going to discuss the methodology we've chosen for this research, and then the sampling technique, the study location, and the study population. The next slide, please. This research shall proceed on the threads of methods and techniques. The study locations. The study locations cover the Economic Community of West African Affairs Commission in Abuja, the Ministries of Foreign Affairs in Rabat and in Abuja, virtual and other locations that may be agreed by our respondents or subjects of interest and this researcher. The study population will cover officials of these organizations as well as experts in foreign affairs and civil society. The sampling technique used to generate or to identify our respondents is the judgmental or purposive sampling technique, because the researcher has a clear knowledge of which people have the particular knowledge that we need in order to execute this research. The method of data collection. This research shall use two major sources of data, the primary data and the secondary data. The primary data will be generated using the interviews, the in-depth interviews, as well as the focus group discussions. The interview is a method of data collection that generates first-hand in-depth data from the experiences and knowledge of particular subjects. And the focus group discussion is a research, data generation technique that usually is generated based on conversations between subjects of interest that have particular knowledge on a particular phenomenon the researcher is trying to investigate. The choice of the two methods is in order to complement each other, because the nature of the respondents that will form those who will interview is they are diplomats, and they might, in order to be politically correct or to be diplomatically polite, they try to be vague or try to hide certain information from the researcher. But researchers, like experts in foreign affairs and others, they can bear their mind on a particular issue, and then when the atmosphere, like in focus group discussion, is free, they can they can bear their mind out on a particular issue. The secondary sources will cover archival records as well as statistical, video and audio records that may be of importance to this research. The methods of data analysis. The content or qualitative content analysis will be deployed to analyze our data. And this allows the researcher to make inferences from the data he has gathered. And it involves at least three major processes, from the generation of the data to transcription into written text, and the coding of this written text into categories for analysis, as well as the interpretation of this data or themes using either softwares or manually by the researcher. There are three approaches of content analysis: the conventional content analysis, the directed, as well as the summative content analysis. For this research, we've chosen the directed method because we generated our themes from the theoretical assumptions of our theory, which is the constructivism. The scope. The nature of the research needs a lot of traveling. Funding may be a challenge, but yes, and then in the event the pandemic continues, we may also have to use other methods in order to generate data, or to use the virtual platforms. research design is the most important component of a thesis, without which all other components, the literature review, theoretical framework, as well as the conclusion would make no sense. Thank you. Questions?
Who has a question?
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. My question is, how do you think are you going to approach such diplomats or relevant people? Because sometimes even access to them is a challenge, both in Morocco and other ECOWAS states.
Can I respond to this, or I will take the other questions?
Avant de... Oui, oui, bah, il y a des questions. Donc, vous passez pour le camarade et puis... Premier...
Actually, Lisa, your presentation was very good and really I learned some things politically. Now, my question goes thus, data falsification in research is a problem. How do you think you're going to address this issue?
Data
Falsification. Yes.
So my question is not related with the methodology that you're willing to taking place. My principal concern is about your problematic. What is your subject? Because I didn't understand it from your presentation. So what is your essential problematic, and what were the criteria that you based on to choose this kind of methodology?
Any other question? Okay. Okay.
I have a question just after you reply.
Yes, you
Just-
can ask.
I know you problematic first.
My problem. Okay. Regarding how we are going to approach or get appointments to interview our subjects of interest, there is what is called snowballing. You try to get around those people, establish contacts with people that are close to them, and then you will have access to them. And we've already done that. I traveled to Nigeria recently, and I met with a couple of contacts that would hopefully provide or facilitate access to my subjects of interest. Regarding falsification, I think that is a philosophy, part of the post-positivist philosophy, and the particular philosophy on falsification is Karl Popper. And then basically you cannot establish a particular truth without getting the real truth. And that real truth is the main problem of political science. Trying to solve or trying to reconcile the problem between two opposites, trying to reconcile two opposites. And you talked about problematic. The topic is Morocco's analysis of the challenges and opportunities thereby of Morocco's membership of the ECOWAS. Morocco is a North African country placed by geography on North Africa. And Morocco is trying to join a regional union of the West African states. And there is a stumbling block. Morocco's membership in that, Morocco's membership application to that body has been stalled, has been defied since 2017. and that provides a particular or a good vantage for problematic in political science research. Why has this been stalled? Many researchers have pushed forward, or like about 5 have written particularly on this topic, and they have each given their conclusions, some from the power theory paradigm, others from the economic and political economy. Others have also tried to look at it from the new regionalisms approach. But for this research, we are deploying the constructivist assumption since we are looking at national interest. And national interest is are formed by leaders. There is General Abacha in Nigeria was asked, what is the foreign policy of Nigeria? And he said, the foreign policy of Nigeria is what the leader says it is. So we need to look at deep, we need to look at the psychology, the social relations of the leaders of West African region in order to make inferences regarding this. So that is the problematic. The question, sir.
Okay. First, allow me to thank you for the fruitful and pragmatic presentation about your methodology. It is true that there is a vivid desire of Morocco for the integration to ECOWAS and many other continental organizations, especially after the coming back of Morocco to the African Union under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. So, but ECOWAS, it involves 15 countries. 15, right?
15 right now.
Okay. But
it has been enlarging and contracting over time.
Okay,
yes.
but the main place or the pillar of this organization is Nigeria. What do you think about knowing that Morocco has multi-dimensional diplomatic strategy involving in diplomacy, politics, economics, even in the cultural sphere and the religious one? What do you think about the cultural and the religious one in the straightening of relations between the Kingdom of Morocco and the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Knowing that you may be familiar with some figures in Nigeria like Emir Sanusi, like Sultan of Sokoto, like Sheikh Saleh Husseini, who are mainly cooperating with Morocco. Emir Sanusi was in Fez 1 month ago. 1 month ago, Sultan Sokoto participated in a conference organized by the Kingdom of Morocco in Abuja in October, I think, last October, on the preservation of African heritage. Even the ambassador of Nigeria here in Morocco is the son of Sheikh Saleh Hussein. Exactly, and he's very active in straightening the cooperation between the two countries, and vice versa with the strategy of Morocco in Nigeria. What do you think about this focal point, which is the cultural one, in the straightening of the relationship? Thank you.
Good. Okay. First, this lies within the space for cooperation between Morocco and the rest of Africa. And Morocco has been spearheading African Open Africanist agendas since 1956. In fact, one of the 2 groups that led to the formation of African Union, which was Organization for African Unity, was the Casablanca Group, a group of progressive African nations, including Guinea, Ghana, Morocco, some other countries that wanted speedy unification or union of African nations since 1956. Nigeria is the honors causes of West Africa, in fact of Africa, diplomatically, politically, and economically. But then Nigeria has several challenges that are external and internal, and now that has made the foreign policy establishment to look inward. What can be done inward to stabilize the country and then push back to the concentric cycles, which is West Africa, Africa, and the world at large. regarding the space for cooperation, there are myriad avenues for cooperation between Morocco and Africa, but they have been done on a bilateral basis. And the new approach of the Moroccan leadership to foreign policy and to African renaissance is to demystify those challenges of regionalism in Africa, to make Africa, to help push forward and further Africa's borders, to put them down. There is the religious and social diplomacy aspect. If you take Tijaniya, the Tijaniya originates here in Morocco, in Fez, in the Medina. But in Nigeria, there are more Tijaniya disciples than there is the population of Morocco. There are about 62 million adherents of the Tijani order, or Sufist order. And in the wider West Africa, there are about 100 million. So there are notable figures, not only Sheikh Saleh, but there are other figures. The Ishaq Rabi, his late, others. These people have tried to, when Morocco left the OAU, they have tried, or they were engaged in shuttle diplomacy, which is a private diplomacy, so to say, between the leadership in Nigeria, which is the current leader when he was military head of state. They engage in that private diplomacy. They take messages from Buhari and other West African leaders to the King of Morocco, the father of the current king. And that helps stabilize and also continue the relations between Morocco and Nigeria and some other West African nations. Another point is the energy and industrial development. Nigeria used to be one of the most developed industrially in Africa. In fact, in 1978, Nigeria was at par with Malaysia and was ahead of China industrially. But there is challenges due to domestic squabbles. Now, Nigeria needs the expertise of Morocco industrially to further up its industrial sector. That is, and then two, the energy sector. Nigeria has one of the largest gas reserves in Africa. Morocco needs energy. In fact, there is a project currently going on, the Trans-Sahara. So there are myriad of avenues for cooperation between West Africa and Morocco. But historically, relations between Morocco area or North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa date back to at least the 5th century AD. And this revolved around socio-political structures, also diplomacy and other aspects that as sort of region in the present manifestation of it developed, which was the Trans-Saharan Africa region. And that region had people in this culture and had the socio-political structure in North Africa influencing political development in West Africa area. And we have scholars, Islamic scholars, such as Sheikh Muhammad al-Mahdi, Ahmad Baba al-Tubukti, and also travelers like Ibn Battuta, exchanging embassies between Moroccan Sultan, especially Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur, and the societies in West Africa. that climate, when in 1591, Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur invaded one of the most important empires in West Africa, which was Songhai Empire, and he raided it. But all of this was in order to establish socio-political relations as well as to control source of gold and salt, which was the major important resource in that time. I hope that we can meet and further discuss about that. But if you have other questions,
Thank you for your presentation. I made the interview because I'm impressed by the subject of philosophy. I think I have just a remark. In the first part, you just skipped the part of when you talked about philosophers and their method of thinking, and so in our lives we are living in such a way. Most of philosophers have described the way of thinking, and I think philosophy is not used only in political science in general. I think your presentation was general in some parts. I just I want to talk about another way of getting information that is a Socratic method, if you know it, the Alinkos.
syncretic.
Yeah, it's Socratic method, and it's called Alinkos. It's like asking for information and pretending like you don't know the information, you don't know the answer. And Socrates was using this method to get most of the, it's like a wise method to get information from other people. And that's it. Just I think the first part is important for philosophers.
Okay, can I respond to this?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, regarding this, the syncretic method, I think Science 1971 encouraged researchers to use the syncretic method to, for example, if you go to interview your respondents, you look aloof, you try to appear as novice as possible. But I had a particular experience with that, and it was double jeopardy for me. During my master's research, master's fieldwork at African Union, I tried to appear novice to the Commissioner of Political Affairs, African Union. And then she was trying to make the interview interactive, but I was using that approach. And at the end, she hacked her files and told me to go back to because she's a professor of political science, as well as a former VC, Ambassador Laraba Abdullahi. She was ambassador and she was professor of political science. So she hacked and told me to go back to my problem and then come back. And then the danger is you're going to lose a contact that you might take 6 months to re-establish. Yes, but it's also a good way of making or trying to investigate a particular problem, especially if you are trying to investigate problems of insurgency and you find yourself with the good guys.
I was using it for pretending as always as a humble
man, as humility. But I think nowadays, if you got caught like you are doing it, you are not, you are arrogant. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.